This meeting of online presenters has now begun. Guests, please note that in order to be a member of our club, you must be a current or former active member of Toastmasters International or have completed at least 6 speeches from either the traditional or pathways program, or you must be a substantive, relevant presenter experienced that you demonstrate in a 3 to 5 minute speech delivered during one of our club meetings. All requests for membership are subject to board approval. If you have not already done so, please change your panel to ensure it shows your name and role if you have one. Right-click and select Rename to do so. We have members often guests from other countries throughout the world. Thus, as a professional organization, we ask that you please be aware of language and word usage that may be considered offensive or otherwise insensitive due to cultural differences. Please note that we will be recording the meeting. Your video audio contribution may be used for club marketing purposes. Also, please mute your microphone when you are not speaking. Today is our October Speechathon. We welcome our club VPE, Krishn.
Thank you, Alizan, and please everyone give her a big round of applause for her baptism on the role of Sarajat Oms. So welcome to this Speechathon of online presenters, where we specialize in webinars and online events. We are currently the biggest online club for Toastmasters at the moment. And are we proud of it? If we are proud of it, give me a drum roll or wave madly or applaud. If you're proud of it, I am proud of it. Yay! So that's online presenters for you. And this session is about you, my fellow club members. What's in store? Speeches, evaluations, and a very productive session Toastmaster. I'm now going to hand over to him. He's currently in the education team at Online Presenters. I think he's making his mark, and he's someone I will always trust whenever it comes to online activities. Toastmaster Lucas Calafel, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Krishn, and welcome, fellow Toastmasters. The Speechathon is a platform for members to have the extra speaking opportunity in order to progress in their pathways training. In the words of public speaking champion Darren LaCroix, when it comes to improving your public speaking, what's important is stage time, stage time, stage time, and that's exactly what Online Presenters is providing to our members. Before we introduce our timer, I'd like to address how evaluations will be carried out for this Speechathon. At this time, all of our speakers have assigned evaluators. We will have the speakers give their speeches. Afterwards, we would go into an evaluation portion of the meeting where each evaluator will give a formal 2 to 3 minute evaluation for our speakers. Any other speakers, as one may join us later on, will have a round robin evaluation where members can provide 1 minute evaluations each, up to a total of 3 minutes. On that end, I encourage all speakers and evaluators to listen attentively to all other speeches as to provide meaningful, detailed feedback for our members' continued development. If we do encounter or have to provide a round robin evaluation, and if you wish to give input on the evaluation, simply unmute yourself and say the word evaluation. I will recognize and yield the floor to you, and then you can give the 1 minute evaluation. Please sure to include at least one commendation and one recommendation within the minute. Our timer will give the red background at the 1 minute mark, which is your cue to wrap up. Are there any questions? If not, I will introduce our chief functionary, our timer. Please welcome Elizanne Warren Russell.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. As the timer for the speech and evaluation part of the program, I will be showing the green at the 5 minutes for the speech, the yellow at 6 minutes, and the red at 7. For the evaluation, it will be 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, and then 3 minutes. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Elizanne. We will now move on to our prepared speeches. Our first speaker is completing the evaluation and feedback project in level 1 of the presentation mastery path. Dr. Emily Thompson is on the life sciences faculty at Washtenaw Community College. She is the chair of the Sustainability Literacy Task Force and advisor to the Students for Sustainability Club. Dr. Thompson was on sabbatical for the spring term from January through May of 2020. She is giving her sabbatical presentation this morning. Please give a warm welcome and help me welcome Emily Thompson.
Thank you. I'd like to share my slides. The title of my presentation is Resilience and Hope, because that's what I learned about during my sabbatical. A sabbatical during COVID pandemic has had a lot of ups and downs, as shown in this slide. What I thought, and what all of us thought I'd be doing on my sabbatical, included working to learn more about genetics and the environment, and perhaps having some relaxation time. And this is actually what I ended up doing on my sabbatical, being isolated along with everyone else because of COVID. One thing I was able to do before the pandemic began, starting in January, was I was an extern with the city of Ann Arbor, in Ann Arbor, Michigan, where I live, as a carbon neutrality extern. And there were innovative, hardworking people, and they were busy getting stuff done. They were under a very tight deadline to figure out how to get the city carbon neutral, and they had 3 months to present a plan back to city council. My boss was actually my daughter. She was an intern there as well. She was doing community engagement and also finding out from the community what actions they were willing to take to reach carbon neutrality. And my job was then to tally up all the reports and produce slide decks. The legislation was proposed at the very end of March, and believe it or not, it actually was passed. Whoops, sorry, my going a little slowly here for my fingers. This was passed on June 1, unanimously by our city council in a Zoom meeting. This helped me know that our city is resilient and there is hope for the future regarding climate change. The second thing I worked on regarding climate change was I ended up attending a Second Nature National Conference. It was for college presidents and sustainability officers. I'm not actually either of those, but they let me in anyway. The purpose of the conference was to teach people more about having college and university campuses become carbon neutral. At least that's what I thought it was about. I did learn about Allegheny College did go carbon neutral. They announced it at the conference. This is a big deal. They have reached carbon neutrality, and it took the legacy of 3 college presidents to accomplish this, and they're pictured here. I also learned that not only are we worrying about carbon neutrality as colleges and universities, but now we're looking into regional resilience hubs and having colleges and universities work on this, become resilience hubs. So work with the nearby cities and determine what would you do when there's a climate emergency. And as we saw from the pandemic, community colleges have often been used during the pandemic as locations for drive-through coronavirus testing. And so this turns out to be extremely important, not just for climate emergencies, but also for health emergencies. And so resilience is the new word, resilience planning. And Princeton here is an example of a university that has established itself as a resilience hub. So I learned from this that colleges and universities are resilient, and there is hope for the future regarding climate change. The third thing that I did was I completed a certificate on communicating climate change at the Yale School of Public Health. In case you're wondering, that's a tick waiting for something to come by, a mammal to come by and give it a blood meal. The courses are listed here: climate change science, adaptation science, and communicating climate change. I want to point out this brand new science called adaptation science. And here we're looking at how are humans going to adapt to the problems of climate change. We have to start planning now so that when climate change gives us challenges, we are able actually to meet them. In order to help you with what adaptation is, I want to talk a little bit about mitigation versus adaptation. Mitigation would be decreasing and drawing down global carbon dioxide. An action that you might take to mitigate climate change would be to drive an electric car because fewer emissions would be made. Adaptation is getting people ready to meet the health threats of climate change. An example would be establishing cooling centers for high heat days so that people don't have heart attacks and strokes, heat exhaustion, and other heat stresses. So I'd like to ask you all of you who live here in Ann Arbor and Ypsilanti and Detroit and environs, what you think are the top 3 local health threats due to climate change. This is a picture of flooding in Ann Arbor. And just to let you think about that, it's actually extreme heat, flooding, and increased air pollution are the top 3, with the other 2, vector-borne disease and mental health issues, also very important. And I'm giving the sources here, and it's City of Ann Arbor, Detroit, and Michigan Department of Health and Human Services have identified these 3 as the top threats. Focusing just on air pollution, increased air pollution includes ozone, particulate of micron size 2.5, and pollen, which causes allergic reactions, but worse than that, asthma attacks, hospitalizations, and death. And vulnerable people include people with chronic disease, people with allergies to pollen, pardon me, and people with coronavirus. I did a little Eat Better, Breathe Better campaign in my courses to eat less meat, which causes less carbon dioxide and methane gas to be released. And additionally, to make more vegetables and fruits available, I modeled what it would be like to start a farmer's market at my college. Therefore, I wanted to say that I learned that cities and counties are resilient and there is hope for the future regarding climate change. My sabbatical reports can be found at yourgreenjeans.blogspot.com, and I've also given 2 public speeches. Here are my references. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be completing the evaluation and feedback project in level 1 of the innovative planning path. Giving the speech titled, "It All Starts With an Idea," please give a warm welcome to distinguished Toastmaster Krishn Ramchurn.
Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever had an idea? And if yes, please use your chat. Have you ever had an idea that you felt was awesome, amazing, or fabulous? If yes, tap it right now in the chat. I'm looking at the chat. If you've ever had that kind of idea, tap it in the chat. All the time. Me too. Yes, this is one of those speeches where I'm going to have you using the chat. Yes. Okay. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, Marianne. So while you're still tapping your replies, here's my next question. When you take that idea and share it with people you feel or you believe or close to you, have you ever got one of the following reactions? Krishn, are you crazy? Krishn, stop wasting your time. Krishn, that will never work. If you've ever had one of those reactions when you have shared your idea that is awesome, magnificent, brilliant, type yes in the chat when you ask for feedback. Ah, all the time. All the time, Ruth. All the time. Holy moly, all the time. Here's my last question to you. Do you have this collective, this group of people where you know every time you share your idea, you will get only positive feedback? You will not get, no, 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 you're crazy, it's never going to work. Instead, you get, why did you not think of doing it that way? When are you starting? How can I help you? That circle of trust. Do you have that kind of collective group of people, a circle of trust that is going to help you or is actually helping you move forward? If you have it, yes, in the chat. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, I'm preaching to the choir here. So here's what I want to share with you. It all starts with an idea, but when we move on with that idea, we want to go into the mastermind. That's what I'm looking for to share. And the mastermind is what really helps us. It got started off officially by Napoleon Hill. It was there before Napoleon Hill, but the author of Think and Grow Rich, he actually coined the phrase, from what I understand. And here's what he means by a mastermind, that circle of trust. It's a coordination of knowledge and effort between two or more people who work towards a definite purpose in a spirit of harmony. The word here, my friends, is definite purpose. Definite purpose. That circle of trust that you have built or you're looking to build. That's the mastermind. Now, why am I sharing this with you right now? And let me start with this. We have training, which is what we always go to if we want a question answered. Then that's not the mastermind. That's the first level where we get questions answered. Then we have the coaching of things. I'm currently working at a coach. It's hard, but it's amazing when you get results for your client. But that's not the mastermind. The training is here, then there's coaching. The mastermind is the next level. And look at this picture. Look at this picture. Look how the hands are. They're not there, they're not holding, they're supporting, because that's what the mastermind is. The mastermind, from my perspective, is this group of people from different backgrounds, and now with online, from different time zones, different countries, different continents, who come together under one collective, one group, one club, and they're all looking in the same direction. They all have their own objectives, but the purpose is the same: improve, become better, and grow. It's as simple as that. If you can relate to that, if that's something that you're doing right now, type yes in the chat. If it's something that you'd like to have, if you don't have it or you want to have more of it in the chat, say, I want more, I want to have it, type right now in the chat. More. Donna says she wants more, dot, dot, dot. I'd like a mastermind group, more, more. Okay, so everyone is saying more. But here's the question. Why this now to you? Well, I think like everyone, I've had ideas, but they always failed. They always were not coming out. I was bottled up until I joined a mastermind group. I didn't know why I was in the mastermind group. I thought I got pushed into it. But once I got into a mastermind group that was being run as a mastermind, because in a good mastermind, you want to also have a book that is studied on the theme, can be leadership, communication, or teamwork. And I never left. Every time I get the chance to join a mastermind, I do it. Every time I get the invitation, I go and see if it's as per my schedule. Every time I'm asked to be part of a group where I can help and in turn get my life become better, improve, grow, I will not say no. Will you say no? Well, here's my invitation to you. This is what we all fall into. No, not working for the dark side or for a Sith Lord. No, this is what we fall into when we go into life, when we leave school, high school, college, university, and then we get into life. This is what we fall into. Our mindset, we get framed, and this is what we believe. We look to the left, to the right. What am I doing here? And then this is what we want to do. And this starts maybe by joining a Toastmasters club, maybe by joining a mastermind group, maybe by working on myself and getting into that circle of trust, that circle of trust. So what's the message here? The message that I want to share with you is, if you have the invitation, if you have the occasion, if you have the chance to join a mastermind group, do it. If you want to start your own mastermind group and you have people who you believe will help you, will help one another, and you can help them, start your own mastermind group. If you want to join a mastermind group and you don't know which one to go for, join my group and let me know, Krishn, I want to join your mastermind group. It's not a sales pitch, because I'm looking at this team of amazing, powerful people. I think if I work with you and everyone works with each other, one another, we can only improve, we can only grow, we can only get better. It starts with an idea, but here's the question: do we make the idea grow? Madam, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Krishn. Our next speaker is actually completing the presentation mastery path. And the speech that she is going to give is going to, in a sense, wrap up her completion of that path. Please give a warm welcome to Asil Boishanova to reflect on her path.
Fellow Toastmasters and dear guests, at Toastmasters we embark on a journey of personal and professional development through the Pathways learning experience. Buddha said, know well what leads you forward and what holds you back, and choose the path that leads to wisdom. Some of you remember what the old educational program is. Why did Toastmasters switch to Pathways? If you know the answer, please put in the chat box. They say that it is for many reasons: to modernize the educational program, provide flexibility, and have a greater access to educational materials. Presentation mastery is my second path. Why did I choose this path? When I joined Online Presenters, I thought that this path would fit most, and I would learn to make presentations professionally. I learned that the path helps you build your skills as a powerful and effective communicator and develop an understanding public speaking techniques, high quality visuals, and including speech writing, and practiced smooth speech delivery. Each path has 5 levels. Level 1, mastering fundamentals. In my icebreaker, I talked about the 3 stages of my Toastmasters journey from childhood to adulthood. how I learned about Toastmasters, and where I am now. Childhood was my first experience in America from 2011 till 2013, and next was in Australia. And then when we came back to my home country in 2018, I joined online Toastmasters clubs, and now I'm a member of multiple online Toastmasters clubs. Next project was evaluation and feedback, where I shared a personal story about my job experience in an oil and gas company with a rotational schedule of 28 days on and 28 days off. I incorporated the feedback I got from my evaluator. I needed to work on my vocal variety. In the next project, Researching and Presenting, I talked about researching dreams and shared the personal story about bird in my dreams that screamed at me, wake up, when I was on rotation, and it saved me from the disciplinary action, because we worked from 6 a.m. till 6 p.m. without weekend for 28 days. And being late for work was not welcomed. Next level, learning your style. In my Understanding Your Communication Style project, I talked about how I communicated with people, my fear, my personality, and language barrier made my communication with people hard. Sometimes it got better, sometimes it didn't work the way I wanted. I admit that Toastmasters is a great platform to develop and practice your communication skills, especially when you serve in various officers' roles. In the Effective Body Language project, I shared a personal story of learning how to drive a car and using GPS. It was a bit a humorous speech about overcoming my fear of driving and arguing with GPS. And next project was Introduction to Toastmasters Mentoring. I talked about my mentors. Next level is increasing knowledge. In persuasive speaking, I shared a story about myself wanting to go to music school and learn to play piano. I got my audience back to my past when I was 7 and I was on my knees hugging the legs of a man and chanting, please, please, please. The man was the director of a music school, and he already told my mom that they didn't have a place for me in the piano class. He tried to get my hands off, but I hugged his legs even tighter. Then he said, okay, you are going to have 3-month trial. You better be a good student. 3 months turned into 7 years. I graduated from music school. My message was that if you feel unmotivated, wake your inner child and back yourself to pursue your goal. For elective projects, I selected storytelling and focus on the positive. In storytelling, I shared a story about the small kitten I brought home when I was a little girl. My dad didn't like cats at all, but because he loved me so much, he had to allow me to have him. And the kitten was very, very smart, and he somehow made my dad accept him. On the focus on the positive project, I shared the story about the mountain man, Dashrath Manji. Can love move mountains? This might not be physically possible, but Dashrath came quite close. Unfortunately, his wife fell and hurt himself badly, and he couldn't do anything because their village was surrounded by mountains and they didn't have access to the next town. So after her death, Dashrath decided to carve a small path through the mountain in order to give his village easier access to medical assistance. It was touching. It was a touching story, and this man's love for his wife gave his meaning, his life meaning. Next level is building skills. In managing difficult audience, I asked VPE to assign the various role players. I didn't notice many interruptions when I was giving a speech. It turned out that when the role players listened to my speech, they forgot that they were supposed to interrupt me because my voice was calm and soothing. But it was fun. And for my next elective project, I chose write a compelling blog. In the past, I tried to write a blog on the blogger.com website, but I didn't like it. I felt kind of lonely there. So when I did this project, I decided to do that on Facebook. I wrote posts on Facebook on various topics, and I felt connection with my audience, my readers. It was great experience. And next level, demonstrating expertise. In my Prepare to Speak Professionally project, I gave a 22-minute speech about leadership, a journey that started at Red Lobster. I shared my Toastmasters experience with filling different officers' roles, overcoming my language barrier and dealing with both my emotions and other people's emotions. I thought that giving a speech for 22 minutes would be hard, but it was a great experience. I learned so much. And next, in my elective project, I did moderate a panel discussion. The topic was membership growth. That time, it was membership dues, and not all members renewed their memberships for various reasons. I had 5 participants. They individually answered different questions. Then they talked on one topic, and we did debate. It was a quite very interesting experience, and I got a good feedback. I'm going to incorporate for my next panel discussion project. I learned so much doing all of these projects on this path. My communication skills improved a lot, and I'm so looking forward to doing more path and seeing where I can go. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Asil. Our next speaker is completing the Understanding Your Communication Style project in level 2 of effective coaching. Marianne Grady has been a Toastmaster for 10 years. She continues on this journey because she has learned so much and loves to be around the positive energy of people who are working to better themselves. In her speech, blah, 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 Marianne will give you some tips to be a more effective communicator. Please welcome Marianne Grady with her speech, blah, blah, blah.
When there's a poor communicator in front of you, it can be like you're listening to Charlie Brown's teacher, you know, from the old Peanuts comic strip. Blah, 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 wah, wah, wah. Good morning, fellow Toastmasters and guests. As a Toastmaster, most of us feel that we're pretty good communicators. We have a good command of the language, a strong vocabulary. That's all it takes, right? Not really. Over the years, I've had a lot of aha moments as I've learned on how to communicate more effectively, and I hope to continue to do that. But I'd like to share 3 that have helped me immeasurably. First, there was Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. This is a book full of strategies on how to be more effective. Now, habit 2, as it relates to communication, it's begin with the end in mind. When we start a conversation, it's imperative that we start with, but more importantly, keep the end in mind. And why I say that is oftentimes when we begin that conversation and somebody disagrees with us, we tend to let our focus slip from moving our goal forward to winning the argument. When we're disagreeable and not collaborative, most of the time we're not going to get what we're looking to get. So make sure as you go down this conversation road that you are communicating and asking yourself, is this going to help me move my goal forward? The second book that helped me was Crucial Conversations. There's a chapter in this book, chapter 5, called Mastering My Stories, and this absolutely spoke to me. There's always a reel going on in the back of our minds as human beings, and we assign meaning to what people say and do that is not necessarily the truth. And when we do this, it could allow us to feel negative feelings towards somebody, and that will prevent us from moving forward with productive dialogue. So for instance, if you didn't hand an assignment to me on time, I might tell myself, you're disrespecting me, or you're lazy. These scenarios are not facts and potentially could cause me to have negative feelings towards you. So when you feel those negative feelings coming on, stop yourself, step back and review the facts. The only fact we have here is that the assignment was late. When we take a look at the facts, it allows us to remove the emotion from it and deal more effectively. And I might just learn that you weren't feeling well and I'm going to have my assignment by the end of the day. Now, my final communication is know your audience. We've all heard that before. But for me, this was illustrated by a company-administered personality test. You know, the kind where they put everybody in one of 4 quadrants. Well, surprise, I was social. But my boss, he was a factual guy, and I had always struggled to work with him. But when they gave this test, they gave a list, and the list showed communication preferences for each personality type. Wow. This list was just like gold to me. So now, instead of bounding into his office full of enthusiasm with my new idea that made him go, whoa, whoa, I wrote a memo. I listed the problem. I put down 3 potential solutions, and I made a recommendation. And I also included facts and figures that supported my idea. Once I learned this, it was amazing because almost every single thing I put on his desk was move forward. Are you speaking the language of your audience? So in conclusion, I highly recommend the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People and Crucial Conversations if you want to be more effective. I also suggest that you begin with the end in mind, master your stories, and know your audience. And it also doesn't hurt if you listen carefully too. Because if you don't employ these techniques, your audience may be hearing Charlie Brown's teacher. Blah, blah, blah. Wah, wah, wah. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Marianne. And we have our final speaker now, who is joining us. I don't know the information for your speech, but that is okay. I yield the floor to you, Ruth Levitsky.
Hi, everybody. I am from Quincy, Massachusetts. And may I share the screen?
You have co-host privileges, so you should be able to do that.
Awesome. Okay.
And just a quick note, is your speech a 5 to 7 minute?
It is. It's the introduction to mentoring speech. It is on the humor path.
Okay, fantastic. Timer, make note, 5 to 7 minutes.
Oh, there we go. And it is Halloween where I am. I'm not sure it's Halloween where you are. But today I'm going to talk about my mentor. And I want to point out mentors do not have to be alive. So my mentor is quite dead. But he's alive in all of our hearts. And he's depicted as a rather severe man. And this is a quote he actually said, "The unprepared speaker has a right to be afraid." Ralph C. Smedley, founder of Toastmasters. But he didn't start out being 87 years old. We always see him at the culmination of his career. But actually, he started Toastmasters as a young man. He was working at the YMCA, his first job. He was an education chair, and he was about in his 20s. And he noticed that the young men, and that's all it was then, it was young men, the young men had problems speaking. Part of that had to do with the way public speaking was taught at that time. It was very formal, very oratorical, and he thought people just needed to learn how to talk to each other. And that's what this was. And Toastmasters came about the term because that's the person who would chair a meeting or a banquet. So that's how he started it. But it did not take off right away. And he transferred to another Y, and he's a little bit older there. And so in 1905, he is at first meeting. Then in 1924, he's still working at the Y. He tries again and tries again. And, well, the rest is pretty much history because we have Toastmasters today. I had a friend who became our district governor in District 31 at the age of 97, who told me about the early days in Toastmasters. Do you know Ralph Smedley wrote a letter to every single person who was interested in the program, who completed the program, or even went to the convention? Can you imagine writing a handwritten letter to everybody going to your convention? But that's the kind of dedication he put into this. He also wrote the entire program himself, and the book that he used as a reference, which you can get today, it's called Public Speaking as Listeners Like It, and it's got a formula here. Ho-hum, why bring that up? For instance, and so what? So if you look at the structure of some of our speech projects, it was based in this book. So he was someone that didn't necessarily innovate, but he made something that we already had available to us more accessible to more of us. And that first book, my friend Charlie Keene shared with me, it had 12 projects. And it looks an awful lot like the program we have today. Public speaking really has not changed that much. We may have changed a little bit in terms of how we consume information, but the fundamentals are still the same. So he wrote this book, Basic Training for Toastmasters. The last speech is called The Masterpiece. It's called the culmination of everything you've done. And Again, it just looks like any speech number 10. Now, there was no prizes or certificates initially, but he got a lot of pressure to offer a certificate of merit. So he said, fine, I'll offer a certificate of merit. So he did that. If he only knew what this has come to today. Then, if you finish the next book, Beyond Basic Training, you got a letter of congratulations. No certificate. Oh, does this look familiar to you? Well, when they designed the new program, Pathways, they went back to the original program. And you see some guideposts here. So the more things changed, the more they stayed the same. They got the idea and inspiration for our current Pathways from that very first manual Ralph Smedley wrote. There's a lot of quotes that he gave, and they're so relevant even today. For example, the fact that everybody really needs to be able to speak, and they need to know how and when to speak, and more importantly, how to be silent. And I love this one. A speech without a specific purpose is like a journey without a destination. You know, he may have been from another time, but again, these points resonate with us today. And I did say that this was the first joint Toastmasters meeting, and notice that the group's pretty homogeneous. It's all men. But there's another story behind that, and that has to do with the International Toastmasters Club, a story for another day. This is the first Toastmaster meeting in 1924, and that is the YMCA in Illinois where it all took place. Ralph Smedley said, "Ours is the only organization I know dedicated to the individual. We work together to bring out the best in each of us. Then we apply these skills to help others." If he only knew today that Toastmasters is not only a vehicle for people to learn English, but look at all the languages and places in the world Toastmasters now is. And we give out a lot of ribbons for encouragement. And in different languages, we have Best Speaker in Arabic, Best Evaluator in French, Best Table Topics in English. And we're even giving these awards virtually now. This is his, in honor of the 90th birthday of Toastmasters. He always wrote, "Yours for better speaking, Ralph Smedley." And if you want to go on a field trip, you can go visit his grave. It's in Illinois, in honor of a man that contributed so much to the world. And with that, I will tell you that he is my mentor, he is yours. Continue to draw inspiration from him.
Thank you, Ruth. We are now going to jump into the evaluation section of our meeting. Given that our guest speaker, Ruth, had just finished her speech, and she will be the only speaker to go through a round robin evaluation. To reiterate what I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, members can give up to 1 minute of evaluation on the speech, in this case being Ruth's speech. And in order to chime in and give a commendation and recommendation for at least 1 minute, just unmute yourself, say evaluation. I will recognize you, yield the floor, and allow you to do that. After Ruth's evaluation, we will jump into the formal evaluations in the speaking order. If anyone would like to give 1 minute evaluation on our guest speaker, Ruth Levitsky's speech, feel free to unmute yourself, say evaluation, I will recognize you, and then you can begin. Timer, make sure to give the red background at the 1 minute mark for each speaker. Marianne, go ahead.
Hi, Ruth. I really enjoyed the walk down memory lane with Ralph Smedley, and I've done a couple of historical speeches on him myself, so I learned a few new things, so I thought that was terrific. But one thing that I think could make your speech even stronger would be if you linked those quotes and those things that you were talking about to how it impacted you. I think that personal connection would make it even stronger. And allow us to see why you've selected him as your mentor. But I loved it. Thank you very much. And next.
Evaluate. Evaluate.
Yes, I didn't catch who.
Donna. Donna.
Oh, Donna, go ahead.
Thank you. Toastmaster rule. I am just in awe of all the things I have learned from your presentation and presenting it in keeping with the time of the fact that we're celebrating 96th anniversary of Toastmasters. So you've made it very relevant. It's very relevant to this audience because we're all Toastmasters and we're looking at why we're doing pathways. We have an understanding. As you spoke about your mentor, that your mentor has to be alive, doesn't have to be alive. One of the things I'm thinking I would love to share with others from your speech is how you used his work as a mentor to help others in terms of how you mentor them or how you as a protege of Ralph Smedley have helped to move the movement forward. Love the presentation. I am going to steal aspects of it with your permission, and I look forward to learning more from you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you. We have time for one more 1 minute. Jeanette, go ahead.
Yes, hello, Ruth. Especially, I really enjoyed your speech. I like the way you had all the stats about Ralph Smedley. But I'm wondering if you had other mentors in your life, because I know that Ralph Smedley is the founder of Toastmasters, but I think probably the reason why you lean towards Ralph is because you had other people who had an impact in your life. So I would have liked that you add someone else that had a great influence on you. So it was a great presentation. I really enjoyed everything about it, but I wish you had given us a little bit more about other people who could have, had an impact on you. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeanette. Okay. And I'd like to backtrack just for one moment, and I would like to get a timers report from our awesome timer, Elizanne, on our prepared speakers. And if you'd like, you can give a verbal report, or you can just put all the timings in the chat, whichever you would like. Just let me know.
We do have one person that was disqualified, and I'll put it the others in the chat.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Elizanne. Now we're going to move into the formal evaluations on the speaking order. Our first evaluator will be Antoinette Trim, evaluating Emily Thompson. The floor is yours, Antoinette.
Good evening. Good morning, Toastmaster of the day, Lucas, and to my fellow Toastmasters. Again, I am privileged to evaluate Emily, and I know that she's happy for me to evaluate her as well. In her speech, I like that she used, or should I say she compared the word with resilience to an up and down road. And I know that all of us can relate to that. Being a resilient person, it means therefore you have your highs and you have your lows. I found it rather interesting that you made your daughter the boss in one of your projects, and it shows that tables can turn around. And also, congratulations on having maybe your management team approve of your projects, and that is to show that you can also motivate persons. And this is what Toastmasters teach us as well, how to motivate other persons. What you can do better though, is that maybe you can use less fillers. You had a lot of R's. Actually, I lost count After I reach about 5, I said, no. I couldn't count anymore. But maybe you can work on that in your next speech. I particularly like your finish because you finished with this slide that you started, where you have the same up and down road, and I found that was very interesting. And those 2 slides, which is really one slide, is etched in my mind, along with your speech. Continue giving many more speeches, and I'm looking forward again to listening and even evaluating any more of your speeches. Back to you, Toastmaster Lucas.
Thank you, Antoinette. Our next evaluator will be Emily Thompson evaluating Krishn Ramchurn.
Thank you, Toastmaster Lucas, and fellow Toastmasters, and especially Krishn. I really enjoyed your speech titled, "It All Starts with an Idea," and with a sub-theme of masterminds. I want to tell you what I saw, what I heard, and what I felt, but I'm going to do it backwards. Krishn, I really enjoyed your setup of having 7 questions and really involving the audience, having us type our responses in the chat, so we felt connection with you. I liked the way you present yourself as you were showing and sharing your screen, and we saw you in the corner, and so that was very engaging. So overall, I felt that it was interactive and that we were in the hands of a master. What I heard was a speech that was delivered with confidence. I heard that there were 3 things that you were going to have us learn more about, which is how to get better, how to improve, and how to grow. Here's one of my first suggestions. The first 2 sound very similar, how to get better and how to improve. Maybe the first one is how to learn, how to improve, and how to grow. So maybe distinguishing between the first 2 with a slight difference in word choice. And I really enjoyed the questions. So that was really fun. What I saw was a confident, distinguished Toastmaster speaking. I saw photos that were engaging, and I really liked having pictures of people because I find that the most engaging of all. I do have a recommendation here as well. Some of the photos were low quality and grainy. So searching further or even going out and taking your own pictures of like your kids jumping around, yay. That one was high quality, but a couple were grainy. And so I would suggest finding higher quality JPEGs to drop into your presentation to take it to the next level. In conclusion, I really enjoyed your speech. I look forward to your next one. The things I was talking about were so tiny. And thank you very much for this fine speech, Krishn. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Emily. Our next evaluator will be Krishn Ramchurn evaluating Asil Boishanova.
Ladies and gentlemen, who here has finished the path? In pathways? If yes, you can relate to the feelings of Assyl. Finally, I have arrived. Assyl, congratulations for having completed your path. This is your last project. Thank you for sharing your experience, and I think you did a very good job. As per the purpose statement of your speech project, you had to share and share your experience on your path as well as demonstrate expertise. I think you did that very well. You met your purpose, and here's how. As you went along in your speech, which was a 12-minute delivery, you shared each and every path, specific projects, and you tried to give as much as information available, but you did something different. You had a story, an anecdote, and you had a point, a lesson. Story, point, story, point, story, point. And that was what I was looking for. And you got me engaged. That was well done. Your voice was clear. The words were well enunciated. The tone, the pace, the poses had that good combination to keep it conversational and got me hooked from start to finish. Thank you for doing that, Asil, especially over long duration. That was a challenge. Now, how do we take this type of speech delivery and really get it to another level, to a higher level? Well, I've got two gifts for you, Asil, because it's the end of your path. Gift number one is the storytelling part of things. I was expecting you to grab me by the gut, not the heart, not the mind, the gut, because you are demonstrating your expertise. It's an accumulation, it's compounded. And I was expecting you to start with an impact by starting with a story. You had anecdotes, but I was looking for this story that would have been the thread from start to finish. And you have taken me on a journey, and you could have started with why this path, what were the challenges, and you were going along. And by doing so, you would have answered my own expectations because I'm also a presentation mastery. I'm wondering, is the right path for me? What can I expect as hurdles? And so on. So that's my recommendation for you for next time. Have that story, at least one character, one dialogue, one word as common thread from start to finish, and weave everything around it. Now, as you're going along, Asil, I noticed that you were paying attention to the timer and you were still in your level 5 project demonstration when it went from yellow to red, and yet you had to wrap up. So, my second gift to you is twofold: time management, just like me, I have to do it right now, and WIIFM. What's in it for me? Because I hear you accomplished everything and now you're working towards something else. So I listened to you for 12 minutes. Give me something as I'm giving you gifts. Give me something, Asil. That's for the next time. But overall, I think you are a master of your presentation. The slides were amazing, especially the use of transitions as per the flow. Awesome. Asil, congratulations. And I look forward to your next path. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Krishn. And our last evaluator will be Donna Knight evaluating Marianne Grady.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Toastmaster Marianne. There you are. Hi. Yes. The purpose of my evaluation of you today is for me to make sure you continue speaking and not for you to hear me saying blah, blah, blah for the rest of the 2 minutes. I'm going to focus on two areas today. I'm going to mix them. I'm going to focus on the content, which is the purpose of your speech, which was to share your communication style, what you learned and how it worked with you, and your presentation as a professional speaker. As you learned from these resources today, I was very pleased. I heard what you learned from Covey, Begin with the End in Mind. I heard what you learned from Mark, and you used those. You told us what it is that we can do. I heard what I could do, and I wondered, what did you do? And this is where your skill as a speaker came in. Because your use of these resources was what you used in the background to help you to develop as a communicator. Your skill was shown when you used all of these with your know your audience, especially as you spoke about your boss. In speak with the end in mind, you were able not to argue with him. You were able to make sure that at the end, you both got what was needed. As I share in your development today, I want to suggest something for you when you're presenting. The background, I was looking at you, I was hearing you, but I'm trying to focus on some of the background. So I want to suggest for the presentations, you make the background a little less colorful so that the speaker can see you clearly and focus on your speech. As a speaker, I think you're a storyteller. Why do I think so? Because when you started talking about knowing your audience and your boss, your hands went on your desk and I think you immediately pulled it back. I enjoyed that moment. I know sometimes we say don't do certain things, but I enjoyed that moment because as a speaker, as I said, you came alive. I want you to continue speaking, perhaps use more storytelling, but when you continue sharing with us, we will learn more from you and you will enjoy it. I hope that as you continue, you will continue to let us hear words, and you didn't hear wah, 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 Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Donna. Can we have a quick timers report? Elizan, just simply let us know if all the evaluators met the 2 to 3 minute time restrictions.
All the evaluators did meet the time restrictions.
Okay, thank you very much, Elizan. And let's give a round of applause to our timer, Elizan. And thank you to, I just muted myself. And thank you to all of our speakers and our evaluators. It's been a pleasure to be your Toastmaster for the October Speechathon. Now, I would encourage all of the evaluators to access the online presenters website. There are the evaluation forms, which you can type a written evaluation. I encourage you to do that. The benefit is that you don't have to do it right now because this recording will be on our YouTube channel so that you can rewatch the speeches that you evaluated to add any additional feedback that you have. Now I'm going to hand over to our Vice President of Education, Krishn Ramchurn, to give us any club business or any announcements. Over to you.
Oh, wow, it's over. It's over. The Speachathon is over. And I was enjoying my burger and putting my screen off. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Madam Timer, for being on time. Thank you, our evaluators. And please, yes, the earlier you submit the written evaluations, the better it is for you, because I still owe few people evaluations. I'm still trying to find a date for that. Thank you to our speakers for showing up. Thank you to Toastmaster Lucas for preparing and hosting this event. Now, what's for club business? Well, we are meeting in a couple of days. If I'm not mistaken, it's going to be on the 2nd of October on a Monday as usual. The meeting opens at 7:15 p.m. The only recommendation I have, if you have any questions for the education team, you're welcome to join early on. We can have a breakout room for you, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and answer your questions. Having said that, that's all I have. And you can see the background noise at my end. I can't help it. I really can't help it. It's the kids, it's family time, and I think it's family time for everyone. So I'm going to close this meeting. And yes, you're going to get, before I close, you should be getting over the next week, if you haven't received it already, the registration link for the 5th of December event, Virtual Toastmasters Conference 2020, where, if I'm not mistaken, online presenters is going to shine and blow the world, as well as 5 other clubs participating. So yes, when you get that link, please sign up. And that's all for me. Do we have any comments before we stop the recording? Or do you want to have a close after? Oh yes, we have a guest. I completely forgot about you, Ruth. Thank you for showing up. Let's hear a bit about you. Is this your first meeting, and how did it go for you?
Hi, everybody. I have actually been a Toastmaster for 26 years. So, and right now I am in Quincy, Massachusetts, but I'm a member of several clubs, one including Mastermind Toastmasters in Dhaka, Bangladesh. And now I know why they're called Mastermind. So this has been a wonderful meeting. I've got a lot of good suggestions that I can use when I revise my talk on Ralph Smedley. So thank you.
Thank you, madam. Thank you for showing up, and thank you for sharing. And we'd love to have you at our normal meetings on Monday. You can just always view for them at our website. I'll just put them in the chat. On this note, I'm going to invite our host or co-host to stop the recording, and we can stay on.